€725 million. That's how much the basket case that is RTE will be guaranteed in public funding over the next 3 years, with a mix of the waning TV licence fee and taxpayer-funded top-ups and whatever extra they get in advertising revenues. €725 million. Are the government playing a game where they want to see who can give the biggest middle finger to the electorate? Is that what this is? Because what other explanation could there possibly be for Catherine Martin signing off on this? Unbelievable. Now, about 85% of the TV licence fee each year goes to RTE, which before the scandals hit was about €195 million. Obviously, after the scandals were exposed, there was a knock-on effect of people deciding not to pay the TV licence fee, and revenue from the fee is well down as a result. This new funding model will take the licence fee receipts and top them up to a total of €725 million over the next 3 years. In 2025, RTE will be guaranteed funding of €225 million, with €240 million in 2026, and rising once again in 2027 to €260 million. Now, before the scandals hit, that would be an extra €140 million over the next 3 years in funding direct from the Exchequer, or in other words, the taxpayer. Obviously, after the scandals, that figure will be far more. So in effect, what will happen is those people who are still paying the licence fee will be double dipped. They'll pay the fee and then they'll pay again through Exchequer funding. So what's the point in paying at all if that's the case? If the Exchequer is going to pick up the slack and indeed top up that slack, then what is the point in the TV licence fee at all? A guaranteed €725 million over the next 3 years for an absolute basket case of an organisation. A company that is up to its neck in secret payments, bogus self-employment, slush funds, golden handshakes, flip-flops, and no desire for accountability has just been given guaranteed funding. If Virgin Media operated the way RTE have done with their own funding, well, we wouldn't have Virgin Media anymore, would we? They are a private company. If they waste and mismanage their own money, they fail. Yet when RTE does it with our money, they get bailed out. It's the Irish way, I suppose, to reward abject failure. Just look at the HSE. Now, this funding is apparently contingent on RTE delivering the reforms outlined in their recent strategy documents. But I say apparently because do we believe that will actually happen? So far, practically every major player in the RTE scandal has avoided any real accountability, with former Director General D. Forbes allowed to do a disappearing act. Has there been any pay cuts for the top earners yet? No? And let's not forget the most recent example we have of government funding being released with one aim, only to be spent far more broadly. I am, of course, talking about the €19 million that Health Minister Stephen Donnelly released to Children's Health Ireland with the express aim of reducing spinal surgery waiting times down to no more than 4 months. Of course, we saw how that didn't happen, and that was funding for life-changing operations. You know, something vitally important. Do we really believe all of this €725 million will be spent correctly? Yeah, didn't think so. Imagine how much good €725 million could do for those children waiting on spinal surgeries, or other primary care services like therapies and assessments, or the myriad of other issues plaguing our country for that matter. But no, our government would rather sign off on ridiculous guaranteed funding for an organisation that, for all we know, hasn't changed one iota since the scandals. Until we actually see the clear out at the top, especially of those responsible for the slush funds and golden handshakes and the likes, the reduction in salaries for the so-called stars, and the resolution of the bogus self-employment issue, why should we, the taxpayer, the people funding this nonsense, believe anything will change? Worse still is that the social welfare budget has been raided to help pay for this nonsense. €42 million is to be taken from the social welfare budget over the next 3 years. Remember back at the start of the year when we were being told that a yes vote in the care referendum would mean more supports for carers, and we were being told just how much the government valued those carers and wanted to help them. Now at the time, people rightly wondered why we would waste €21 million on the referendums when that money could instead be used to actually help those carers and those with disabilities. A fair question. And here we are now with more money that could be used to help those very same supposedly valued carers wasted on a bailout for a failure of a national broadcaster. It is beyond clear where this government's priorities lie. And so here we are throwing good money after bad. A giant FU to the electorate. And of course they sign off on this nonsense while on their holliers, so they don't have to answer any hard questions. Not that they'd get any hard questions from RTE, obviously. And sure, the odd time when they do get asked the tough questions and get pressed for details, well, they can always play the victim like Media Minister Catherine Martin did recently.
Sorry, never ask the question. You came here 45 minutes late, never ask the question. Stop shutting down media scrutiny here. You're at every press conference we attend with you, your officials at this all the time. Take Elaine's question.
That it's not all going on voluntary redundancies if you cannot say even a rough percentage.
But if you look at the strategy, it'll be clear to you, Elaine, if you look at the strategy that it's not all going on voluntary redundancies. I'm not going to put a ballpark on it right now. It's not what I'm going to do right now.
Okay.
And can I just say one thing? I have sat here for the last year, and I don't think it's acceptable that I am screamed at by certain members of media. No, sorry. Excuse me.
Every single time you have a press conference here, the budget, you're 3 months
Yet
ago,
again, may I speak? May I speak, yes, please? Because I have never raised my voice. I never do it. And I always say, I will stay here for 3 hours, if you wish, Fiona. But I would ask that I be treated with respect, that I wouldn't be screamed at. I think it's the very least that a public rep that is sitting up here deserves.
I'll put the full link to that exchange in the description below, but ask yourself, when has any member of the press screamed at a minister or TD? Absolute hyperbolic nonsense. Her press officer wanted to hurry along the questions to avoid the hard questions that the minister couldn't answer, about this very bailout I'm talking about right now. And when the press got agitated about that fact, the narrative was spun that Catherine Martin was screamed at. Absolutely pathetic. The truth is, basic questions were being asked of Minister Catherine Martin, one in particular relating to how much of this €725 million bailout will be used on redundancies within RTE, and she couldn't give any specifics. How on earth can we, the taxpayer, trust that this funding will be used correctly to overhaul and try to fix RTE when the minister herself cannot tell us what the money will actually be spent on? Isn't this exactly how we ended up in this mess in the first place? RTE being let do whatever it wants with no oversight? This whole situation is beyond a bad joke. Abject failure being rewarded while nothing changes. We, the taxpayer, are being burdened with rewarding a failure, one that has shown it cannot manage its finances, at least 55% of which are public funds, and yet we're just to accept it, and I don't know, hope it doesn't happen again? The definition of insanity springs to mind. Until we see the radical reforms of RTE and the accountability that should be ever present, then this exercise is nothing more than a giant FU to the electorate, and will ensure that the government get an easy ride from a national broadcaster who is dependent upon them to keep them afloat. Utter insanity. So what do you think? Are you happy with the bailout of RTE at our expense? What sort of reforms would you like to see from RTE? Or would you be happier without RTE at all? Let me know in the comments below. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe and hit that bell icon to be notified of new content. If you want to support the channel, you can buy me a coffee or a super thanks, which is greatly appreciated, and a huge thank you to those that already have. You can also follow me on Twitter. Until next time, slán go fóill.